Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of your introduction to argumentation, which hopefully we're getting into actual argumentation now, not just the intro to the intro. We are now pushing a quarter of a way through the semester, which is pretty exciting, let's be fair. And so I wanted to address a couple of sort of housekeeping things that I think we should all sort of keep in mind. The first thing that I want you to keep in mind is that we are on chapter 4 for today. So there's that. The second thing is that you do have an exam coming up, and I will be trying to help you with that. But to be honest with you, since they're open book, open note, open lecture, open everything, you probably just need to be able to see at the back of each chapter what the key terms are that you should know and understand. That's what I'm going to be looking for. If you don't know the answer, I'm hoping you're able to find it. So you have a full week to take this exam. It will not take you that long, maybe an hour, but you can take as long as you need to on this exam. It will be online. It'll be open for a whole week. Prior to that week of it opening and being available to you, I will give you a couple of tips, not the least of which is a sort of review, I guess. But again, at the end of each chapter, it gives you a pretty good idea of what I want you to get out of it. In addition, I will also tell you that it is going to be short answer or multiple choice. Most likely multiple choice, very simple. The third thing I will tell you is that you have only one opportunity to take this exam, but you can take as much time as you need to take it. So don't close it out and then try to go back to it. But if you just open the test window and you work and you decide you want to take a break or whatever, just walk away from the computer, feel free to do that. I don't believe they time out. And if you have any problems, of course, text me, and that's the fastest way, or call me, and that's the fastest way for me to get back to you to resolve the issue. I would not wait until the last day before it's due to take the exam, because we want to make sure that the technology works, okay? And so because I give you guys a full 7 days to take this exam, I sort of have a no excuses policy on late exams or whatnot. There's just no need for it. At least I don't think there is. So those are a few of the tips and things that you need to know about the exam. Again, we will look at the schedule together and come up with exactly when that week is going to be for that exam. It will only cover the chapters that we have covered so far up until the point of the exam. I should check to see if I have my schedule on when that exam is exactly, but I did not look it up before I got on here, and I apologize for that. And I have a really hard time seeing with no glasses on, so I may have to put my glasses on for this. But I know on your syllabus, I'm going to see if I could find out. I have exam 1 scheduled for week 5. So this is actually week 4. Next week is week 5. So I will post your exam sometime this coming weekend. And again, it will only cover chapters 1 through 4, which we have covered in the class. It is a test to find out that you are able to find the answers. That's all it's there for. And so that test will be coming up. I will leave it up for 7 days. So if I get it up on Saturday, I'll leave it up until the following Saturday. If I don't get it up until Monday morning, then it'll be up until the following Monday morning. And hopefully at some point you all will be able to take that exam in that week. I hope that makes sense to you. This exam will only cover chapters 1 through 4, and you may be saying, well, there's not a whole lot there yet, and you're 100% correct. Chapter 4 is really where we get into some of the more detailed intricacies of argumentation, but we're still in the beginnings of it. So let me just go through chapter 4 now, and then perhaps we'll do a little bit of a review later on in the week, especially if you feel you need it. So chapter 4 is where we start to talk about language in how it makes arguments more or less effective. Not just persuasive, but more or less effective. So we know that from chapter 1 that argumentation is a general concept. It's not strictly for the debate room, the courtroom, Congress, for an argument that you want to get into and have. It is for the public discourse. So we have a national public discourse where arguments are made. We have a state discourse where arguments are made. We have your local communities. In the classroom is a place where arguments are made. And pretty much any artifact that you deal with, whether it's a TV show, or a news broadcast or an advertisement, is making an argument to you. So we already know that. It's very pervasive. It's pervasive in our society, and therefore we need to know how to critically think about those arguments as they come to us. When we talk about critically thinking about those arguments, probably one of the first things we really need to do is, as your book says, know your audience. Right? So who is my audience, or what audience is this intended for, and how effective is it based on how well they adapt to that particular audience, or as the book refers to it, field, the argument field that you're in. When I talk politics with people, it depends on where they're coming from, whether it's coming from the public sphere, whether it's coming from an academic perspective, or if I'm doing an analysis on a news broadcast. Those are 3 different argument fields. So if I'm going to make an argument, I need to understand how to make that argument in any of those contexts. It's going to be the same argument, but it's going to be presented in such a way that it makes sense to those who are actually listening to it, right? The ones I want to affect. So your book starts with the most basic definition of language, right? Language is a set of symbols that we use, and they're agreed upon in one way or another. But that agreement is fairly abstract, right? So the example they use in the book is, if I want to talk to you about a pen, I'm going to say a pen, not a writing utensil, because that could be anything. I mean, a writing utensil could be a pencil, could be a pen, could be a different colored pen. It could be ink. It could be a paintbrush. I mean, there are crayon. There are a lot of writing utensils out there that people use. We want to be as specific as needed to make our argument to the particular audience that we're working with. But this chapter goes on to talk about language in a more creative way even. Because remember that this book and the way we're taking this course is to look at argument from the narrative paradigm. What story is being told? Does that story hold true or ring true? And does it make sense as a story? If your argument just on face doesn't make sense, there could be a number of flaws with that argument, right? But if it just doesn't make sense on face, that means your story doesn't make any sense, and literally nobody will be able to call out what it is exactly that you're trying to say. Okay? So your book talks about abstract language versus concrete language. Obviously, being more specific makes it more likely that your audience is going to understand your intent. You all know from COM 115 that there is the speaker, there is the audience, and in between there's a feedback loop, and there's noise, and there's encoding, and there's decoding, and there's all these steps that we go through such that one word can be completely changed by the time it reaches an audience. It can morph in meaning, it can morph in sound. And so in addition to that, particularly in speaking, paralanguage does in fact play a role, but your book doesn't focus on those things in this particular chapter. Instead, it focuses on the creative languages that we use to make an argument. So particularly of use to us is the narrative, and then also the metaphor, which, we can debate simile and metaphor another day, but most of the time we refer to them as metaphors these days. That comparison between two things. And I want to make it clear here that when you're using a metaphor, whatever that metaphor is, we are not saying that the two things that we are comparing are equal. Let me give you an example. People talk about Congress and say it can't get anything done. They refer to that sometimes as a traffic jam. They refer to it sometimes as the bus is going uphill. They refer to it in some metaphor that helps us understand that that Congress has stopped working. There's many things that cause that, and the thing is this: a bus stopping, a traffic jam, all of gridlock, all of those things are not exactly the same as Congress not working, right? Because the impacts of a traffic jam or of gridlock on a freeway or whatnot, you just wait it out and it will fix itself. But that's not the case when Congress gets gridlocked. There has to be something to pull them out of that. And so our job as scholars of argument is to understand what needs to be done to pull us out of that. And a fancy metaphor is not going to do that job. A metaphor can make an argument much clearer, can make the audience understand it a little bit better, but the one thing a metaphor can't do is make your argument for you. So I don't want us to mistake that metaphors can replace an argument. They are just helpful to arguments. Now, I am not, as you know, really prone to reading the book chapter to you, and I feel like I've already kind of sort of done that already tonight. So what I'm going to do is leave you with that, and I am going to put up a short quiz for you. Now, before you freak out, what I mean is that this quiz is intended to help you understand what kinds of questions will appear on your exam. They won't be exactly the same questions, but you'll get a sense of how I write my questions, what multiple choice and short answer might mean, things like that. So it's really more of an exercise for you to go through than it is about earning points. So I'll make it worth a few points, but it's nothing dramatic, okay? It's just to help you understand what your exam next week will be like. So if you haven't read, keep reading, take notes, look at the end of the chapters to find out what's key and important in those chapters. And then look for the quiz to pop up here in the next day. And take that as soon as you're able to. And if we need to talk more about the exam, you know how to reach me and you know where to put your questions. Okay, everybody, I am looking forward to being a quarter of a way through the semester. I don't know if I am or not. It's gone so fast. But I will see you on the other side of this week, on the other side of your quiz. And anything that you need at all, please feel free to put it in the discussion board. Although that does not notify me when you do that, your best bet, again, is texting, calling, then emailing, and then using the discussion board. But any way you want to do it that you're comfortable, let me know. And I'll be seeing you back here real soon.